What comes to your mind when you hear about artificial intelligence? What is your perception of AI? Anybody can answer. When you hear the word AI, what comes to mind? ChatGPT, all right. Terminator, I like that. What else? What comes to mind when you hear artificial intelligence?
A little bit of
Fear, rightfully so. Anything else? Speed. That's a good one. Your perception of artificial intelligence affects your relationship with AI. How you think about it affects you. A lot of people think about it as the enemy that's coming to steal their jobs. If AI is the enemy, you don't want to have anything to do with an enemy. Am I right? Absolutely. She's making a very important point, very important. And it's one of the things that I am highlighting as well, which is to develop a healthy form of skepticism. I'm the author of the book titled Disrupt Yourself or Be Disrupted. Anyone read the book before? You know what? My friends told me that I was very famous. Apparently they lied. I guess today when someone asks you if you have heard about Nikki Bird or if you've read her book, you will say, oh yeah, I was at one of the events where she was speaking. Okay, it looks like we're back. Is there a clicker? Or we have to do this manually? Is there a clicker?
No.
Oh, okay, I guess I'm tied to this position then. So yeah, as I have been introduced, essentially, so this is who I am, Nikki Bird. I'm very passionate about bridging the gap between people and technology. Because when we talk about technology, for some people, it feels like something so distant. It doesn't concern them. It's like, it's for the IT guys or it's for the tech department and stuff like that. But my passion is really to bridge the gap between people and technology, because in this age and time, we cannot afford to be on one angle and technology is happening on the other angle. And I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this with my hand. So we'll be speaking today on digital clarity in an unpredictable AI economy. Everything is being driven by AI today. And it's a topic that is intimidating to some people, but it's no longer business as usual. Everything is being disrupted by artificial intelligence, by technology, by the new models that are coming into the market every day. And the call to disrupt the status quo has never been louder. Does anyone agree with me on that? Because if we try to maintain the status quo, you are literally doing yourself or your business a disservice. And for many people, the landscape feels so noisy, so confusing and overwhelming. I used to feel like that. But when you get comfortable with the idea that you need to start learning how to navigate this new world, it becomes easy. And so, the future doesn't come with instructions. Are there any parents in the house? It's like parenting, right? It comes with no instructions. It comes with no rules and what you should do, what you shouldn't do. You're figuring it out as you go. I recently was having a conversation with a friend. I was like, okay, I've heard that raising teenagers is hard. My son is now a teenager, and I'm like, whose child is this? Who is this in my house? Because the transition is completely different when they become teenagers from when they are babies. So there are no instructions to that. And I feel like it's the same thing that is happening in our world today. And this is not about chasing the latest tech trends, right? It's not about checking what new model is in the market and all of that. It's about finding clarity, strategic clarity, investment clarity, and most importantly, human clarity. Where do humans fit in all of this chaos, in all of this noise? What will be the future of humans? What will you and I be doing if AI takes over the world, as some school of thought believe? Human clarity is more important. Digital clarity is not about becoming a tech expert, because again, some people are like, that's not for me. But no, it is about understanding the shift, this shift that is happening in the economy today, the shift that is happening in our world today, and knowing where to place your bets, knowing where to place your time, and knowing where to place your leadership. Because you cannot fight a battle you don't understand, am I right? Can anybody just go to war and like, okay, let's fight, who is the enemy? You don't know. What are the weapons you need? You don't know, but you are in a battle. Because essentially, we are in a battle, we are in a war. And if we do not understand what to do we are going to make a lot of mistakes on the way, even as individuals or as businesses. And before we get into this, I will quickly share my story of how I came to do what I do today. And something I say very often is that whether by circumstances or by deliberate choice, your life will be disrupted. Technology is disrupting everything. There's no neutral ground. You cannot say, you know what, I don't think this affects me in any way because I'm not in IT. Whether you're in IT or outside of IT, whether you are in the tech industry or outside of the tech industry, nobody can escape the disruption that is currently happening in the world today. And for me, I wasn't always in the technology space. I wasn't talking about all of these things. But one day, I was still very much in the corporate world, and one day I went to work, and my boss called me in for what I thought was a meeting for me to update him with what has been happening. But by the end of that meeting, I was jobless. He told me there has been some restructuring happening, and they've been wondering how to tell me, but there's no better way to tell me than to say, hey, Nikki, sorry, you're no longer needed. Those words hit me like a truck on high speed because I did not see retrenchment coming. My boss used to tell me plans like 5 years ahead of time of what we were going to do and what we were not going to do and all of that. So I was relaxed. I knew my future was secured in a way. But that day, everything came crashing. Everything came crumbling. And to say that was one of the most devastating periods of my life would be an understatement, right? So when it happened, I started asking a lot of questions. When you buy a car, you start seeing that particular mark of car everywhere. Anyone has ever had that experience? So for me, because I have been retrenched, now suddenly I started hearing news about retrenchment. It would jump on me from almost every angle. If I'm on a TV, radio, I will hear news about retrenchment. I'm like, So apparently this did not just happen to me. And because it was consistently jumping on me, it drove this mindset or this curiosity inside of me. I started asking questions as, how do organizations continue to thrive when they let go so many people? Because there was that time in the news, there was a company that had announced retrenchment for about 2,500 employees, and it blew my mind. They were going to retrench them in the next 3 to 5 years or so. And I kept asking, if an organization let go that many people, wouldn't they crash? Wouldn't they just die? Aren't people the lifeblood of an organization? And I remember going on the internet and typing, how do organizations continue to thrive when they let go so many people, right? I think for the most part, I wanted to know how my boss was coping without me. Because it used to be like, without me, he couldn't really function. And suddenly I was out just like that. So I typed that question on Google, how organizations continue to thrive when they let go so many people. And it led me down a rabbit hole that I did not anticipate. And for the first time, I came across concepts like artificial intelligence, robotics, processes that used to be done by humans are now being done by machines or by software, and I was fascinated. And I thought to myself, there's an entire new world out here that I didn't even know existed. So mind you, I don't have a job. I'm jobless, so I have enough time in my hands. So I dug myself deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole, and I kept researching. I started writing about it on social media, the impact of emerging technologies in the world of work. Excuse me, not even thinking that anything will come of it. But then on social media, when you post something out there, you never know what can happen. Sometimes it takes a life of its own. And so people started asking me questions as though I was an expert in the tech space. I was like, you guys have no idea how clueless I am about these things. I'm just finding these things out, and they're so fascinating to me. So I'm putting them out there. But the more questions they asked me, the more I went back and did more research, and I became very fascinated by all of this. And at some point, I thought to myself, I think someone should write a book about this. But in a million years, I didn't think that someone would be me. I would be like, no way. You need to be really smart to write a book, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not the smartest person in the room. There's no way I can write a book. I had convinced myself that also you need to have a lot of education, academia, degrees, maybe PhDs to write a book. So I talked myself out of writing that book. But when an idea has taken hold of you, if you don't do it, you sort of become miserable. So the idea to write the book will not leave me. I tried brushing it off, but it will not leave me. But somehow I started writing articles about it. And eventually it became a book. And I thought to myself, what better title than Disrupt Yourself or Be Disrupted? Because here I was minding my business and my boss disrupted my life, right? Sometimes when I tell this story, people start feeling a bit uneasy, like, did they bring her here to prepare us for retrenchment? No, you can relax, all right? You can relax. Your jobs are safe for now. So, I wrote the book, and for me, the most important conversation that I wanted people to start having is to asking themselves hard questions, uncomfortable questions, right? Will I still be relevant in the next 3 to 5 years? How is technology changing my industry? Right? What are the new skills that I need, and how can I leverage technology to remain relevant? How can I use AI to solve existing problems or create new solutions in my field or in my profession? These are questions that I wanted people to start asking. Perhaps if I had asked myself these type of questions, I would have been more prepared for what was coming my way. So you ask yourself, what are the opportunities that AI presents for innovation within your industry? And if you're a parent, you also ask yourself, how different are you supposed to raise your kids so that they can be better prepared for the world in which we are living today? Because with some parents today, they're just like, you know what, we had a doctor in the family, or your grandfather was a doctor, I am a doctor, you are going to become a doctor. Without really asking themselves, how is technology impacting that field? For some, it's like, okay, your mom was an engineer, I am an engineer, you are going to become an engineer. That's how some parents are literally choosing their careers for the future, for their kids. But technology is impacting every industry, and before we decide on what to do, or even you as a professional, you need to ask yourself, is this still relevant? What else can I do differently to make sure that I stay relevant? But on the other hand, some people are asking the wrong questions, like, will AI steal my job? That's not a question that can empower you. Will AI steal my job? The answer is yes. And then what? If you're asking those type of questions, you're asking questions that makes you depressed, makes you feel a lot of anxiety about the future and all of that. Because you should ask questions that empowers you, questions that makes you look for the solution. So a lot of people are asking these wrong questions, of how can they even stop technological advancement. I remember giving a talk in Nairobi, and someone said, no, Nikki, this is not for Africa. We shouldn't be talking about these technologies in Africa because Africa is still in the third industrial revolution. And rightfully so in so many parts of Africa. But if we're looking at it from that perspective, we are not going to do anything. And the reality also is that you cannot stop the change that is happening. We cannot stop the disruption that is happening, because trying to stop technological progress is trying to stop human progress. Is that true? Trying to stop technological progress is like trying to stop a river. Has anyone ever gone to the river and tried to stop it from flowing? You're fighting the wrong battle, and when you fight the wrong battle, even if you win, you lose. So we need to be careful of the type of questions that we are asking when it comes to artificial intelligence, right? And some of the trends we're seeing today is that every CEO is now a tech CEO. Everybody is now a tech person. Every industry is now a technology industry. Before, when we talk of tech, you think of your Apple, you think of Google, you think of Facebook, OpenAI, these big tech companies. But no, every company is now a tech company. That is the shift that is happening in the world today. And if all of these companies or industries or companies are becoming technology driven, it therefore also means that the people within these organizations have to be tech driven. But again, so many people are saying, no, this is not for them, this is for the IT department. And so I want us to do a little bit of a quick exercise. What comes to your mind when you hear about artificial intelligence? What is your perception of AI? Anybody can answer. When you hear the word AI, what comes to mind? ChatGPT, all right. All right, I'm gonna try to point fingers. If I lock eyes with you, I will just point to you. Yeah, someone said ChatGPT. What comes to mind when you hear AI?
Terminator.
Okay, let's do one by one. Terminator, I like that. What else? What comes to mind when you hear artificial intelligence?
A little bit of
Fear. Rightfully so. Anything else? Speed. That's a good one. Anyone else? Come on, guys. What comes? DeepSeek. That's a good one. What comes to mind when you hear the word AI, artificial intelligence? Okay. So far, so good. Those are good responses. Fear is one of the big things that people feel when they hear artificial intelligence. And the gentleman over there said Terminator. which is a very good point you've made, but it's part of the presentation, we will get there. Because this is how people feel about it, but the point I'm trying to make here is that your perception of artificial intelligence affects your relationship with AI. How you think about it affects you. A lot of people think about it as the enemy that's coming to steal their jobs. If AI is the enemy, you don't want to have anything to do with an enemy, am I right? If you see me as an enemy, if I'm coming towards you, what do? You run off. Oh, there she comes, right? You see an enemy coming from that direction, you go the opposite way because you don't want to have anything to do with an enemy. My upcoming book is titled Humanity's Greatest Frenemy, because artificial intelligence is all of these things. It's an enemy and it's a friend. It's a double-edged sword. AI is not just one thing. But anyway, you wait for the book to come out. So it is very important for you as an individual to sit and ask yourself, what type of relationship or what type of perception do I have with AI? Because your perception of AI greatly impacts how you interact with it. If you look at it from that fear perspective, like you said, my lady, it's also going to affect how you relate with it. But if you look at it from the opportunity aspect of it, it's going to help you on how you approach it, and how you learn, and how you evolve. So we're going to be looking at some essential skills and mindset that are necessary to navigate this disruption. And one of the key ones is to anticipate industry changes. Don't think that your industry is not part of what is happening or will not be part of the disruption, because AI is disrupting essentially every industry, from healthcare to farming to finance to retail, manufacturing. There is no industry that is being left untouched by artificial intelligence. So when you keep an eye out on how AI is transforming your industry, it is better for you. Understanding the direction in which your field is headed will allow you to anticipate these changes and position yourself accordingly. There are times where I give these talks and someone will be like, oh, Nikki, this is so overwhelming. Where do I start? I'm like, start where you are. What industry are you in? Ask yourself, how is AI changing my industry? You don't need to go learn everything about AI. You just need to learn, how is it affecting your particular industry? And what profession are you in? How is it affecting that particular profession? When you narrow it down to that level, it becomes easier for you to find the solutions or the answers that will help you navigate this change. The next point is to adapt. And one of my favorite quotes on this is from Charles Darwin, and he said, "It is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change." Are there some intelligent people in the house this morning? By any chance? Oh, there used to be. Yeah, so for the intelligent people in the room, I have a bit of bad news for you. In this age and time, it is not your intelligence that will help you to survive, but your ability to adapt to change. Are we adaptable? Are you adaptable to change? Or you are relying on your intelligence? Or you're relying on your experience? Kakuza said the act of life is a constant readjustment to your surroundings. Just like the chameleon, it adjusts based on its environment. Is the environment becoming pink? It changes to that color. Is the environment becoming blue, green? It changes to that color. But if you as an individual, you are not a chameleon. When I say chameleon, I don't mean those people that backstab. You know those people, they call them chameleons? Not those types. I mean the type that adjust based on its environment. Adjust the skin color, adjust your mindset, adjust your strategies, adjust the things that will make you stay relevant according to your surrounding. So what are the things in your surroundings that are changing, but you are not changing, right? And adaptability beats experience. Because there are so many people that they have been in this game for so long, and they don't think anything can shake them. Like, do you know how long I've been in this industry? Do you know how long I have worked in this company? I've been here 10 years, I've been here 15 years. You just came in yesterday. What do you think you can tell me? The people with that type of mindset will find themselves being left behind because they are not willing to evolve with the times. Experience is based on the past, and the past doesn't always work in the future. Or unless there's someone here with 5 years experience into the future. Can someone tell us about what's happening in 2030? Yeah. Unless it's that type of experience you have, you need to know that the times are changing. Yes, there was a time where experience was the thing, where when you came into the business with 20 years experience, you were the boss. But today, if you are not coming with an agile mindset, if you're not coming with that ability to adapt, your experience can become a liability. Because the landscape has changed, the rules have changed. And the most dangerous phrase in any organization, this is how we've always done it. This is how things are done here. This is the way we do it. This phrase is always used by someone with experience. But in the age and time in which we are living, this type of thinking, this type of phrases holds an organization back. There's another business saying that says, don't fix it if it's not broken. Anyone heard that before? In this age and time, you better fix it before it gets broken. The best time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining. Don't wait till it starts pouring. When it starts pouring and you climb on the rope, it's dangerous. So don't rely on experience. Become adaptable, become agile. And don't be this guy, the complacent one. Again, it ties back to experience. I've worked here for 20 years and I've never made a mistake. Show me someone who has never made a mistake in their life, in their profession, and I will show you someone who is not growing, someone who is not evolving. Because innovation and evolution requires that things be broken along the way, requires that mistakes be made along the way. But if you've gotten to this point where you are so complacent, your feet are on the table because you've been in the industry, you've been in the game for so long, you are relaxing, you are essentially doing yourself a disservice because complacency is the silent killer of progress. People who are complacent, they don't want to think differently. They don't want to think outside the box. They don't want to embrace change. For them, it is as it has been, so will it always be. Because complacency believes that the past success will ensure future stability, and nothing could be far from the truth. One of my favorite quotes also is from Arvin Toffler, and he said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." Learning is not the problem. The problem is in unlearning. Because when something has worked for so long, and suddenly you're being asked to let it go, but you're like, this has worked. Why? Well, the reality is that what brought you here will not take you there. What brought the business to this point, there is no guarantee that it will take the business forward because the landscape is consistently changing, faster than any of us can keep on. Today, there's one new model in the market. In the next few weeks, there's another one coming. Next month, there's another one coming. Before you even get used to one thing, there's another thing already being introduced into the market. So your ability to unlearn has to be fast, just as your ability to learn. So many people unlearn. So many people are learning. They go back to school, they get these certifications, they get all of these degrees and stuff, but they are just adding knowledge on things that no longer work. They are not unlearning. When you unlearn, you make room for new knowledge to come in. And anyone who stops learning is outdated, whether at 20 or at 80. Another important thing to take note of is certification, right? And many of us, we stack them like trophies. But it is necessary. This ties back to what I was just saying about unlearning. Because upskilling doesn't always mean acquiring more degrees. Because holding on to your academic qualification in this new age and time makes you economically vulnerable. if we can even look back, the education system is not well prepared for the disruption that is happening in the world. So if you rely entirely on the education system, you are setting yourself a few years behind, because the system itself needs to upgrade to prepare people that are relevant for the future. So upskilling is not always meaning, oh, go back to school and learn. Again, when some people hear me speak, they're like, oh, there's that degree that I started 7 years ago. I kind of abandoned it. Maybe it's time for me to go and finish it up. No, hold on. Before you do that, ask yourself, is this particular degree relevant for the marketplace? Before you do that, ask yourself, it takes 3 to 4 years to complete a degree, right? How much change would have happened in the market in the next 3 to 4 years? By the time you start the degree and by the time you finish, it may be obsolete. So sometimes a 6-month course is much more relevant than a 4-year degree in the world we're living in today. Sometimes a 3-month course may be much more relevant. Sometimes even a free course on the internet will be more relevant than your 4-year degree. Because when disruption hits, people don't look for credentials. Like, where's the guy with an MBA? No, we don't do that. We're looking for leaders who don't flinch, leaders who listen deeply, and leaders who can turn confusion into momentum. Leaders who can turn disruption into opportunity, and those are not skills that are taught in a classroom. There's something that I want us to listen here, a quick video, but it's essentially talking about cultural inertia. Americans, the richest country in the world, build their houses with wood. Why? It's not because they're poor. It's not because they cannot afford concrete. It's just because it's what has always been done. We are aware of the Californian fire that a few months ago that happened. That was when this video was created. Talking about something so important is not just about countries, it's about organizations. What is the culture? What are the ideas that an organization is still holding on to, even though we're living in times that those ideas no longer apply? Because the path dependence feedback loop, it refers to how an initial choice, even if it's not an ideal one, can lead to self-reinforcing cycle that locks in that choice, making it difficult or even impossible to switch to alternatives. So it's a great lesson for every one of us to learn, to ask ourselves the question, what is the culture that no longer serves us, but yet we cannot let go of it?
This is a wireless nature.
Right, sorry about that. We all know about Nokia, right? Anyone with a Nokia phone in the house? Oh, okay. For the Gen Zs, you can ask your neighbor, what is a Nokia phone? If there's any Gen Zs in the room, by the way. So, we all know the story of Nokia and what happened, because they were so big that they didn't even think it was possible for anyone to overtake them. This was a Forbes cover, November 2007, the same year Apple came into the market, the same year the first Apple phone was launched. Their competitor had just been born, and they put this on the cover of the magazine. 1 billion customers, can anyone catch the cell phone king? In 2007, Nokia was dominating the market globally. There wasn't any part of the world where we didn't have a Nokia phone. I remember very well the Nokia 3310. Yes. I'm telling you my age right now. It was the thing, the Gen Zs have no idea what I'm talking about. It was the thing, but because they were so big, they didn't even think that anything could shake them. Who could catch the cell phone king at the time? But not only was the cell phone king caught, not just by Apple, but by other companies, the cell phone king was dethroned and kicked out of the market. The new generation has no idea what is Nokia. Well, they are more in the infrastructure section now, no cell phones. But many kids tomorrow will grow without ever knowing what was Nokia. But those of us from the days, we still have nostalgia when you think about Nokia. You could charge a Nokia 3310 for weeks and the battery still lasts, right? So, certainty is a liability. When you get to that point where you think you are so big, you cannot fail. No one is too big to fail. No one is too competent to fail. No one is too intelligent to fail in this age and time. Anyone, anytime, can crash you and take you out of the market, either as an individual or as a business. The Gen Zs within your organization that you may be looking down at them, there could be your Apple being born. Meanwhile, you as Nokia, you are on the cover of the magazine beating your chest. Who can catch the cell phone king, right? And that's the cost of legacy thinking. You miss opportunities, you make decisions slowly, employee disengagement, loss of relevance, and poor AI adoption. Another key thing is to not just focus entirely on your industry and what is happening, because your competition or your competitor can come from any part. Look for clues outside of your industry. Have a mindset that thinks beyond your profession. There are certain clues to your business or to your profession that you will only have them when you start looking outside to be like, oh, I think I can make an adjustment in this area because of 1, 2, 3. And we can look at these examples that I've listed here. We used to know Apple as, the iPhone, the Mac, and all of that, but Apple is now into finance. There's Apple Pay, there's all of that. It goes the same with Samsung, known for home appliances and cell phones, but today Samsung is in fashion. You hear of smart jackets, smart shoes, smart all of these things. Uber, known for its ride-hailing services, but they are now in food delivery, so your competition can come from any side, any part of the world. In this age and time, everyone is eating everyone's lunch. So if you are locked in direct within your industry, the person that will kick you out of the market could be operating entirely in a different industry. So expand your mindset. Go to events that have nothing to do with your industry. Go to events that have nothing to do with your field. In those events, there are clues you can pick from there that will help you navigate the disruption. And it's no longer just financial. I know I'm speaking to finance or investment professionals, right? It's no longer enough to know finance and investment. You need to understand data fluency. Again, it goes back to the idea I mentioned earlier. Everyone is in tech, every company is in tech. Tech literacy and the ability to interpret AI outputs critically or data critically. Investment professionals are shifting from doing the analysis themselves to questioning the analysis. Because when the data gives you this output, as a professional, what you need more now is critical thinking, the ability to question, is this thing right? The output from AI that I'm having, is it the right one? And this is a key skill. Did anyone hear about the lawyer, the South African lawyer that was fined because they presented cases in the court that were fake? Yeah, I was in PE a few weeks ago and I gave a talk and someone asked me that question in the room and said, Nikki, when something like that happens, should we still be trusting AI with critical information? And my answer is yes, of course. In my opinion, that was not a software error. That is human error. Because whatever the data feedback you get as a professional, it is your responsibility to question that analysis. It is your responsibility to fact check. This output that I have from this system, is it accurate? Because AI can hallucinate and make up stories that are so convincingly sound right, but they are not right. So the ability as a professional for you to question any outcome from AI software or systems is critical. That's going to be a more critical skill than you doing the analysis yourself. That whatever feedback it gives you, you sit down with it, you question it, you fact check, you research before you submit it to be sure that this thing is right. And it doesn't just end there. Cybersecurity, reputational risk, algorithmic bias, data privacy, and digital fragility, all of these things matter. Don't just say, I'm under an investment. Cybersecurity has nothing to do with me. Oh yes, it has. It has everything to do with you. There was a story in Singapore recently where a scammer had called one of the finance professionals in the organization and said, we need you to transfer so and so millions to this offshore account because we're doing so and so investment. It sounded convincing from the CEO. And he said, okay, can we get on a Zoom call and you confirm this? The CEO is like, okay, no, can we have a meeting and you confirm this? So the CEO said, I'm not in the office right now, but I can send you a Zoom link and we can connect online. So this scammer, presenting himself as the CEO, sent a Zoom link, and on the Zoom call, there were 2 other executives from the company. And they had that meeting, everything looked legit, and they agreed on the amount of money, I think it was about 25 million USD, transferred to the offshore account. Just for this finance guy later to realize that all of this was fake. The only real person in that Zoom meeting was the finance guy. Everything was AI generated. So you can't sit back and say, oh, this doesn't concern me. What has cybersecurity got to do with me? It has got everything to do with you. Because such a case can happen in your organization, especially if the people are not trained to understand that this is now the way scammers are operating. Because if everything is going digital, do you think that criminals will still be standing on the traffic lights trying to grab a wallet? They are also leveraging the power of AI and going digital. Crime as well is going digital, which is something that our police department has no clue how to handle this, but that's a conversation for another day. And this is not just in South Africa anyway, globally. Because what now constitutes a crime? How do you investigate such a crime? So AI is disrupting the world so much that even the laws around crime needs to be redefined. So you as a professional not having the understanding and the knowledge that criminals are also digitally operating now. And you think, oh no, I'm just a finance guy. I'm just an investment guy. None of that concerns me. Every of it concerns you. Data, you need to understand how it works. Cybersecurity, you need to understand how it works. Again, it's not something that is just for professionals, right? And so, adopt a cross-disciplinary mindset. Silos are a thing in many organizations. Okay, this is marketing, this is finance, product development, investment, and no one is talking to each other. We cannot afford to function like that. You need to adopt a cross-disciplinary mindset where you understand what is happening in other business units of the organization. This doesn't mean that you become a master of everything. It doesn't mean you become an expert in everything, but it just means understanding the basics of technology and other areas of business unit. There's a book called Range. It speaks to this. Having just one skill set in this age and time will do you a disservice. Because someone in investment who understands what is happening in marketing stands a better chance. Someone in investment who understands what is happening in sales, or just the basics of it. So it is important that you ask yourself, are you relying entirely, having this narrow mindset, or just entirely on the job description, where you're like, no, if it has anything to do with marketing, don't come to me. That's not my job description. The future in which we are moving into, job descriptions will not be a thing. In fact, job titles will not be a thing. Everything is fluid, it's moving, it's changing. And digital transformation is breaking down all the barriers and the silos. Because we need to be able to talk to each other. Otherwise, how do we get the right data to make decisions? If marketing is standalone, if finance is standalone, if customer service is standalone, and they don't talk to each other, it means that at the end of the day, the data you have as an organization will not be efficient to make better decisions on it. So if you're required to do something that is immediately outside of your field, don't say, no, that's not part of my job description. In this age and time, you need to adopt a cross-disciplinary mindset. It makes you more relevant in that way. And the mind is where the revolution begins, because the mindset that worked in a pre-AI world will not work in our world today. So the big transformation that can happen in any organization today is not just digital transformation, but a mindset transformation. How do your people view technology? What type of perception do your people have about artificial intelligence? This is the great transformation that needs to happen in an organization. Because if an organization dive in tech first, they bring in the best tools, they bring in the best softwares, but the people are completely left alone. Digital transformation cannot succeed in that regard. And statistics shows that up to 70% of digital transformation initiative fails. One of the big reasons it does is because the people are left behind. Sometimes you see that the processes that will be, or the software that is built for an organization is completely built outside the continent, maybe somewhere in China. No one from customer service was consulted. No one from the investment team was consulted on how should we build this thing. The people are left behind. So the mindset is critical, and the involvement and the buy-in from the people is critical. So whatever an organization is doing in that digital transformation journey, it needs to start with the people. And one of the mindset shifts needed for today, for people who feel overwhelmed by tech, it's not everyone that feels overwhelmed by this, right? But for those who are feeling overwhelmed by technology, shift your mindset and understand that it is not about all of these technologies, right? It can be a bit overwhelming. It's not all of these things. Focus on, shift it to think about that this is a new era. That's the shift that is happening. These new ways of thinking, new ways of leadership, new ways of working, new ways of learning, new ways of doing business. You know, until 2020, we didn't know this whole Zoom thing. Hello, can you hear me? Many of us had to learn that skill when the pandemic happened. So these are new ways of working, new ways of doing business. So many people learn entirely online today without needing to sit in a classroom. That is the shift. That is the new era in which we are living today. So when we hear about it, don't say, oh, AI, that's too intimidating. No. Realize that we are in a new era and you need to shift your mindset to stay relevant. And this is one of the critical points that I've been making earlier on, where people think of themselves as, I'm not a tech person. But when you say I'm not a tech person, it's like saying I'm not a learning person. Is there anyone in the room that when you were born, the doctors looked at you and they were like, hey, you look like a tech person. And they put that label on you. Is there anyone in the room like that? Okay, since I'm speaking to investment professionals, is there anyone in the room that the doctors looked at you the day that you were born and like, this looked like an investment professional? And they put that label on you. Okay, I think that guy, that's what the doctor did. I saw him put the hand up while he said he was crushing his face. So you get it. There's no one, whatever we do in our world today, there's no one that was given that label at birth. The point I'm making is that if you were not given that label at birth, it means that you learn along the way. And if you learn what you are doing now, the same can apply that you can learn about artificial intelligence as well. You can learn how it is impacting you. You can learn how you can incorporate it into your daily life and into your work, right? Because no one is born a tech person, like I've already said. Understanding AI is not about building robots or complex algorithms. None of that. It's just to get the basics of AI and how it impacts your industry or your profession. So get rid of the mindset that I'm not a tech person. And there's another mindset, the wheelbarrow mindset. You know those people, anyone knows what a wheelbarrow is, right? Right. There are people that are like wheelbarrows. If you push them and leave them here, you come back the next day and you find them exactly where you left them. They don't take initiative on their own. They don't do anything on their own. They always wait for someone to push them. But in this age and time, if you are a wheelbarrow person, you risk being left behind because AI is not waiting for you. AI is not waiting for slow learners. It's not waiting for late adopters. And many of the wheelbarrow people, you know, they sit on this corner with their degrees and their qualifications and everything. They just sit on that corner. Maybe the boss have to push them, or maybe someone in their family has to push them. But you need to take an active role in your own digital fitness and career development. Because the AI revolution demands not just your attention, but your active participation. You cannot afford to sit on the fence. The saying goes, those who are using AI today are the ones who will likely steal your job, not the software itself. So you think about that before you sit back. And AI is actually one of the easiest technology to learn in the history of technology. I remember when I was learning Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and all of that. You had to go to an actual school or classroom to learn how to operate some of these systems. But artificial intelligence today, as overwhelming or as intimidating as it feels, the reality is that it's actually the easiest technology to learn. No coding, no jargons, no installations or setup required. The important thing is that if you are playing around with these systems, you're doing yourself a favor, right? There was a time where there was like a stigma to using AI when it just came into the market, when ChatGPT just came, and people were asked like, hey, did you use AI on this? Like, oh, me? Use AI? No. So people had that stigma, but now when you ask, is anyone using ChatGPT? Like, yeah. Like a gentleman over there couldn't wait for me to finish the question. He's like, today you woke up this morning to come and answer the question. Like, yes, he's using ChatGPT. So that is the confidence in which we should be approaching these systems. If you are not using it, you and I will have a special private session. Because why do you have to, it's not just ChatGPT, right? It could be any of the AI tools. It doesn't necessarily have to be ChatGPT. But the reality is that AI makes work 10x faster. It makes you 10x productive. Research or a project that could have taken you weeks to complete, you can complete it in a few days or even a few hours. If you have a tool that can make your life that easy, why don't you use it? Is there anyone that walked into this place from their destination? I don't know where many of you are coming from, but is there anyone that walked here? I think some of you flew, some drove here. Okay, no one has put their hand up in walking. I didn't walk either. So, the point I'm making is that some people look at AI like, if you're using it, it means you are lazy. No. If you didn't walk here, it means you're lazy. If you took a flight, it means you are lazy. In fact, if you send your colleagues an email, it means you are lazy. Because if you are not lazy, why send your colleague an email? Just walk to the house, deliver the message. Right? Don't even call anybody. You want to talk to somebody, go where they are. Because the mindset that AI makes us lazy, meanwhile we have adopted phone calls, we have adopted emails, and we've adopted all of these previous technologies. It is just that type of mindset makes you less productive. But the person who is using artificial intelligence becomes more productive than you. Okay? And Benjamin Franklin said, we are all born ignorant, but it takes a great deal of hard work to remain stupid. I didn't say it. Benjamin Franklin said that because in this age and time that we're living, there is so much knowledge at our fingertips. So in this age and time, ignorance is a choice, and ignorance cannot be defended anymore. If there's anyone around you who is ignorant, I don't know. That's a choice. Because there is so much at our disposal today. It takes a great deal of hard work to remain stupid, to remain uninformed. If you remember when I started sharing my story earlier, I said I got curious about how organizations continue to thrive when they let go so many people. And that curiosity drove me to ask the question. That same question on Google. If I had not asked that question, I don't even think my life would have taken this trajectory. Right? So you could be sitting here and you're just one Google search away to finding the answers that keeps you awake at night. You just may be one question away from ChatGPT. You're asking ChatGPT, okay, how do I go about this? How do I go about this? What should I do? You just might be one question away from having the answers that keeps you awake at night. And if you don't, it means you're working extra hard to remain stupid. I think it's time for us to leave that one alone. I wanted to quickly show us the Future of Jobs Report 2025 that came out a few months ago by by the World Economic Forum. The skills for 2025, the core skills for 2025, of course, you can see them here. Analytical thinking is right at the top of it, which I mentioned earlier on how to question and analyze things and fact check and research and ask tough questions to output that AI gives you, right? That's where analytical thinking comes in, and critical thinking as well. Resilience, agility, leadership, and social influence, creative thinking. All of this is what is actually happening now. But when we look at what will be happening in the next 5 years from now up to 2030, we can see that AI and big data are right at the top. It doesn't matter whether you are in technology or outside of that industry, if there's anything like that. It doesn't matter if you're in IT or outside of IT. The Future of Jobs report shows that these are the skills that will matter by 2030. AI is right at the top. And if we look at technology literacy, it's moving from here on number 6 to number 3. So again, there is nothing to say, you know what, I'm not a tech person. Because if you don't adopt these skills, you are going to be left behind. This is what the forecast is showing us about the Future of Jobs report. And some of the things that inside that stood out, is these ones. There will be 170 million jobs created and 92 million jobs lost by 2030. Well, we'll see about that. I have my own opinions about it, but let me leave that for now. And 39% of current skills will be outdated. 39. So what skills do you have now? 39% will be outdated by 2030. And AI is both the number one disruptor and opportunity. Let's look at this briefly. This is what employers or organizations are saying, that the biggest shift that is going to impact their organization is AI and information technology, which is 86%. That's the biggest for any organization in the next 5 years. Robot and automation, 58%, but 86%, that's where AI sits, that will impact every organization in the next 5 years. So if you are not rising to the occasion to make sure that you have AI skills and you understand how this system works, you understand how to prompt it, you understand how to ask the right questions, you will realize that in the next 5 years, you're going to become irrelevant or obsolete in the worst case scenario. And so let's take a quick look at this. Let's see if it works. All right, that's a good one. All right. So the point is on leadership, right, and vision. Because when we talk about upskilling today, leaders look at the people on the ground like these are the ones that need upskilling. It's almost like the leaders are okay, they got it. But you can see from this short clip that a blind person cannot lead a blind person, right? So it is important that leaders, as a leader, you ask yourself, okay, this transformation that we're bringing into the organization, you as a leader, are you ready for it? Have you prepared yourself for it? I remember being here in Pretoria for a conference and I was required to sign in with my ID, and I had forgotten it at home, but I had the copy on my phone. And I told the reception that I don't have a physical ID with me, but I have a copy on my phone. And she said, no, they cannot allow anyone into the building without a physical copy of the ID. And I stood there trying to do this back and forth with her, to negotiate and get my way in, but it wasn't working at all. And boldly behind, at the reception where she was sitting, is written innovation, or driving impact through innovation, or something along those lines. But the word innovation piqued my interest. And I started a conversation with her, like, I can see right behind you it says innovation, but you are stuck on me producing a physical copy of the ID, meanwhile I have a digital version of me. And she looked at me and said, Nikki, I know what you're saying, but others come from the top. And the other from the top is that no one gets into the building without a physical ID. Again, that is leadership. That don't understand the change that is happening in the world and don't even understand their own tagline. You can't talk about innovation. Innovation is about making processes easier, cheaper, and more accessible. So you cannot even be a leader in an organization that is supposed to be speaking to these things, yet you are holding onto analog systems and old ways of doing things. Because leaders play a crucial role in setting the tone for digital transformation in an organization. It is important to have the tools, but even more important to know and understand how to use them. It is important to have a tagline as an organization, but even more important to understand the impact and the meaning behind that tagline. And digital transformation starts with people, not technology. A successful digital enterprise isn't a technological enterprise, but a confederation of inspired people that are empowered by technology. So if the people, again, are left behind, it therefore means that an organization is going to struggle. Because companies don't disrupt, people do. And I love this quote from Whitney Johnson, and I quote, she said, businesses require disruptive people to be disruptive. A business consists of holdings like office buildings, warehouses, desks, chairs, sophisticated machineries and electronics, their shelves. Inanimate, creating nothing, like a beehive minus the bees. It's pretty difficult to get honey that way. So people are required to breathe life into an organization to achieve innovation, growth, and productivity. Again, it speaks to the critical aspect of people in an organization when it comes to innovation and digital transformation. Human capital and culture. Transformation isn't just technology, it's people and culture. Does the organization encourage experimentation? Are people allowed to try things and break things and fail? Investment in digital is incomplete without investment in people who can adapt, innovate, and scale. Yes, you can have the best technology in an organization, the best tools, the best software. But have you invested in your people to drive this change? Because human adaptability is the ultimate return on investment when it comes to transformation. And someone mentioned the Terminator earlier. I said we were getting there. Hey, we got there. So, the two models of AI, the two models of artificial intelligence, this is something that I'm exploring in my upcoming book. Because when many people hear of artificial intelligence, all they think about is this one, the Terminator, right? Which brings a lot of fear and all of that. But there's also another model of AI, which is the Iron Man model, which I want to explain to us briefly now. The Terminator model, you can see, the view of it is that AI is dangerous, it's uncontrollable, and it will replace humans. That's the Terminator model. The focus is job loss, of course, surveillance, deepfakes, autonomous weapons, essential risk, and all of that. What's the narrative? That machines will overpower humanity. Think of Skynet, loss of control. What are the emotions it triggers? Fear, resistance, and distrust. But now, let's look at the Iron Man model of AI. It views AI as a powerful assistant that augments human capability, not replaces them. It focuses on productivity, creativity, healthcare, problem solving, smart decision making. And the narrative is that AI is a co-pilot, right? It's a collaborator. Humans are in control, with machines enhancing what we can do even better. What are the emotions it triggers? Curiosity, empowerment, and collaboration. So when you hear of AI, it should not, instead of triggering fear, it should trigger curiosity, empowerment. So let me quickly expand on the Iron Man model of AI. Tony Stark, the main character in Iron Man. We know Iron Man movie, right? Anyone know the Iron Man movie? I'm speaking to the converted, alright, great. Tony Stark on its own is a genius, right? He is a man with big ideas, but he also has human limitations. But when he steps into the Iron Man suit, everything changes. He is stronger, he is faster and more capable of solving problems at scale no human could ever do on their own. And the critical point here is this last one. The suit doesn't replace him, it enhances him and making him 10x much better. There is no Tony Stark without the suit, and there is no suit without Tony Stark. That's the type of collaboration we should be having with artificial intelligence. Not having the perception of it that this is Terminator is coming to just make us completely obsolete, but approach it from that perspective where we're looking at it like the Iron Man. The suit we put it on, it makes us better. Yes, Tony Stark can still do a whole lot. He's a genius without the suit. But when he puts the suit on, you can see that his capabilities are enhanced. He can fly, he can do a lot of stunts. That is what AI essentially is here to do for humanity, at least in my opinion. And so you need to become part of the revolution. You cannot stop technological progress, but you can influence its impact in your life, in your career, and in your industry. The goal shouldn't be to see how we can slow AI down, and I know that there are some leaders within the tech space that have been trying to slow it down. They're like, this is moving too fast. There was a later thing by Elon Musk and a few other leaders that like, can we not do GPT-5? Can we stop here at 4 and see what happens? But no one is slowing down. Because let's say Silicon Valley slows down, China is not slowing down. Beijing is going to carry on going. I listened to Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google recently, and he is even projecting that AGI could be achieved in the next 2-3 years, which is quite scary when you think about it. And then superintelligence is saying it can arrive in the next 6 years, which is the intelligence that is much more powerful than what we have now, and combined is more powerful than human intelligence combined. Says that can happen in the next 6 years. However, that should not be your concern. Neither should it be my concern right now. It is for us to focus on what we have now, how is it impacting your career, how is it impacting your industry, and what type of value can it add to your profession. So put on the Iron Man suit, focus on the opportunities. Because if you don't, if you sit back and do nothing, you are more likely to be replaced by another human being who is leveraging technology and moving ahead, much more than you will be replaced by a software or by a robot and all of that. Because again, when people think of, oh, I'm going to be replaced by software, I'm going to be replaced by a robot, they don't realize that the colleague who is sitting right next to them is the actual competitor. The person who is learning how to prompt these machines and get the right output out of them, that is your actual competitor. Understanding how to build a relationship with AI, that should be the goal and the focus. And so, with that being said, what is it going to be? Are you going to take action and empower yourself, or you're going to bury your head in the sand, hoping that this all blow over at some point? Because my theory is that AI is not a bubble, because the bubble pops at some point. AI is not crypto. AI is not Bitcoin. This shift we are seeing right now, artificial intelligence, this is going to be the main infrastructure of the future, like electricity, like water. So it is here to stay. And I hope nobody is speaking on option B, where they will bury their head in the sand. And with that being said, thank you for listening. Any questions? Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Yes.
Do you have any specific risk that you feel that should be highlighted with the implementation of, let's say, an AI system? Something that you're particularly concerned about?
When it comes to artificial intelligence, there's always risk. There's a lot of risk involved. One of the stories that was online recently, let me come down if you don't mind. One of the stories that was online recently was about an AI system that generated a policy that didn't exist in an organization, where a customer logged in and they were trying to get through to their subscription, and the AI that is operating in the background told them that, oh, there's this new policy, 1, 2, 3, and they cannot go through. So that's one of the risks, right? So this person ended up writing about it on social media, and I don't remember exactly what the name of the company was, but what happened is that so many people unsubscribed. They're like, no, we don't accept this new policy. Now when it got to the CEO, they're like, we don't have a policy like that. AI had completely made it up. So that's one of the risks that I can think about, unless that's not the type of risk you're asking in regards to. But there's a lot of risk when it comes to artificial intelligence, and that's why for me, there should always be a human in the loop. At least for now, there are systems that are coming up that a human will be needed in the loop. When you think of agentic AI agents that are coming up, that is like an independent system operating independently on its own. But it's still early days. We are going to get there. But for now, I think there should always be a human in the loop. Any other questions or comments?
But I agree with you that you always go back to that what we know about certain principles. If you look at some AI generated things, you can actually see if you look closely. And that's what I think you have to sensitize and not just believe what you see, because that's very quickly that we believe Google. You know, you don't listen to the doctor any longer because you believe Google. So this is, and you start prescribing to your own prescriptions, which is wrong. You should still look at it very closely and use your intelligence in your own mind to assess that and to make sure that what you're looking at is the truth.
Absolutely. She's making a very important point, very important. And it's one of the things that I am highlighting as well, which is to develop a healthy form of skepticism. Because seeing used to be believing, right? Seeing is no longer believing. I posted something on my LinkedIn yesterday. It's a video of a car show that is entirely generated by AI. The cars, the people in that car show, the interviews, everything. It looks so real, you cannot distinguish if this was AI generated or it's a real car show that happened. And so one of the things I was saying, if anyone goes on my LinkedIn, the last post, I was literally talking about this. I was like, question everything. Verify, 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 and verify. In the past, when you were around someone who was a bit skeptical, you're like, oh, you're so difficult to convince and all of that. That is actually a skill now. If your colleague calls you and they're in a panic, and verify. Is that really your colleague? Even if it's your husband, your wife, verify and verify and verify. We are living in dangerous times. So yeah, that was a good one. Anything else? I saw your hand there. Yeah?
Is it better for the company to create their own AI to improve their business or to adopt an existing one on a license?
Both. I would say both. If an organization can, say, afford to build their own system, that is much better, it's much safer, right? You know that your data is safe and all of that. But if you can't, even with the models that you get from outside, still kind of personalize it so that it understands what your organization is all about. Personalize it so that it understands what your culture is all about. Personalize it and in a way that it doesn't end up creating fake policies that don't exist, like the example I was sharing earlier. So both of them works. If an organization can get an enterprise AI from a third party, which is okay, many organizations are doing that. But for the big guys who have the money and they want to build their own system, that is actually the best way to go about it, because again, the safety aspects of it and cybersecurity and all of that, you have much more control than when someone else controls it. This side, you didn't have coffee this morning? So, anything else?
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, sure.
If you go with a license agreement with one of the top 3
organization feels like a setup right now. There are always going to be vulnerabilities when it comes to AI, right? Even with the in-house one, it's not a foolproof thing. There will always be vulnerabilities, and I think the focus shouldn't be to how to completely eliminate those vulnerabilities, but it's to live with that awareness, to consistently be aware that this can happen, there can be vulnerabilities. And again, the systems are becoming so smart that sometimes they do things on their own. You could have your own system and your AI decides to go rogue. Then what happens, right? So the vulnerabilities are always there, but if you keep your eyes like, hey, I'm watching you, you can minimize some of those vulnerabilities. Because once you get to the point, this is why I'm careful to answer the question. Once you get to the point where you feel like you've eliminated the vulnerabilities, it's even more dangerous. So rather live with that consciousness that anything could go wrong, than relax like, no, we sorted it out. So that would be my take on that. Anything else? Yes?
In your opinion, what's currently the best AI platform to use? Also, like, how do you prompt it? Do you need to teach it?
You need to get my upcoming book. There's a chapter on prompting. Yeah, but when it comes to the best, I don't want to be biased. I use ChatGPT, right? Because I have trained it to understand me and understand my language. I don't want to try another model. I know DeepSeek has been the thing since it came out. For some reason, I haven't even experimented with it because I'm that stuck with ChatGPT. But for a lot of people and organizations, they're using Copilot, right? Even ChatGPT itself has the enterprise version of it where organizations are deploying. So I don't know, is your question based from an organizational perspective or from an individual perspective? Oh, for yourself, okay. You use what I use. But there are other tools out there. And also it depends what you're trying to achieve, right? Because the project determines which tool to use. If you're looking at something maybe that, even though OpenAI is integrating almost everything into ChatGPT now, where you could do voice, you could do images, you could do videos and all of that, but then Midjourney is a thing depending on what you're looking at. There are other tools that are essentially just for voice, other tools that are better at videos, other tools that are better at research, other tools that are better at things that has to do with maybe mathematics or some sort of science. So there are different tools out there. You could explore and see which one best suits your needs, right? It could be Anthropic, it could be Gemini. Me and Gemini, we're not good friends, but that's me anyway. So you can always speak based on exactly what you are looking for. I'm too much of a loyal person, so I kind of start with ChatGPT. Yeah, anything else? Yeah.
Earlier in your presentation, you mentioned the shorter courses to learn it better than.
Yeah.
So, is there any course that you would recommend?
Again, it depends on what you are looking for. What are your needs? Your personal needs, right? Your professional needs, your career needs. But if you were to go, for example, if you were to go on ChatGPT, right, and say, I am this, my name is this, I am in this field, and I'm looking at enhancing my skill here and there and there, what can you recommend? Right? It gives you a better option than what I can tell you right now, because that's one of the beauties of these things. So you go in and you give in your profession, your line of work, how long you've been in the industry, what you're looking to do. You give in these things and say, okay, this is where I am right now, but I want to evolve as a person. What do you suggest? It will give you a whole lot of things you can go through. I'll send you an invoice for that one. All right, looks like we are done.